The sun was setting over the vast expanse of desert, its golden rays casting long shadows across the endless dunes. The air was still, heavy with the heat of the day that had just passed. Not a sound disturbed the silence, except for the soft crunch of boots against the sand. A lone figure trudged through the wasteland, his silhouette dark against the fading light. His name was Caleb, a man who had seen more than his fair share of hardship in this unforgiving land. Caleb's face was etched with lines of exhaustion and despair. He had been wandering for days, lost in the desert after a disastrous turn of events at the small mining town of Silver Ridge. What started as a simple job to deliver supplies turned into chaos when rival gangs clashed in the streets. In the ensuing madness, Caleb found himself running for his life, leaving behind everything he owned. Now, all he were the clothes on his back and a canteen nearly empty of water. As night began to fall, the temperature dropped sharply, and the stars emerged one by one, twinkling faintly above. Caleb stopped to rest, leaning heavily against a jagged rock formation. His throat burned with thirst, and his legs felt like lead. But despite his weariness, he couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was watching him. Every rustle of the wind made him jump. Every distant howl sent shivers down his spine. Yet, there was nothing around but sand and scrubby brush. "Maybe I'm losing my mind," Caleb muttered under his breath, though he knew no one would hear him. The isolation was suffocating, and the thought crossed his mind that perhaps he truly was alone in this desolate place. Little did he know, however, that fate had other plans. It began as a faint sound, barely audible over the whispering wind. At first, Caleb thought it was just another trick of his imagination, a phantom noise conjured up by fatigue and dehydration. But then it came again, clearer this time. Laughter. It echoed from somewhere ahead, a haunting melody that seemed to rise from the very heart of the desert itself. Caleb froze, his hand instinctively reaching for the revolver holstered at his side. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice cracking with uncertainty. There was no answer, only the lingering sound of laughter, eerie and unnatural. It didn't belong here, not in this barren wasteland where death lingered in every shadow. Determined to uncover the source of the strange noise, Caleb pressed forward, his footsteps quickening despite his exhaustion. As he moved deeper into the desert, the landscape shifted subtly. The endless dunes gave way to patches of sparse vegetation, and eventually he stumbled upon a grove of cacti unlike any he'd ever seen before. They stood tall and twisted, their spines glinting faintly in the moonlight, and from within their midst, the laughter continued, louder now, almost mocking. Caleb approached cautiously, his senses on high alert. The grove was eerily quiet save for the occasional creak of branches swaying in the breeze. Then, as he stepped closer, he saw them, figures huddled among the cacti, their forms partially obscured by the thick foliage. They appeared human, yet there was something unsettling about them, an aura of otherworldliness that made Caleb's skin crawl. One of the figures turned slightly, revealing a face pale as bone, its eyes gleaming with an unnatural light. Caleb recoiled, his breath catching in his throat. What are you?" he stammered, his grip tightening on his revolver. But instead of answering, the figure simply laughed, a cold, hollow sound that chilled Caleb to the bone. Another figure joined in, and then another, until the entire grove seemed alive with their chilling mirth. Caleb backed away slowly, his mind racing with questions. Who, or what, were these creatures? And why had they chosen this remote corner of the desert to gather? Just as Caleb was about to turn and flee, a new voice cut through the cacophony. This one was deeper, richer, carrying authority that silenced the others instantly. "You shouldn't have come here, traveler," the voice rumbled, sending vibrations through the air. Caleb spun around, his heart pounding in his chest. Standing before him was a man, or at least what appeared to be a man, tall and imposing. He wore a black coat that billowed in the non-existent wind, and his hat cast deep shadows over his face. Despite the darkness, Caleb could feel the intensity of the stranger's gaze boring into him. I heard laughter," Caleb managed to say, his voice trembling. "I wanted to see who was making it." The stranger tilted his head slightly, studying Caleb with an expression that was both curious and calculating. "Laughter, you say?" Perhaps you should reconsider what you think you've heard." With those cryptic words, the stranger raised a hand, gesturing toward the grove. Slowly, the figures began to dissolve, their forms melting away like mist in the morning sun. Caleb watched in disbelief as the grove returned to normal, the strange entities vanishing without a trace. For a moment, he wondered if it had all been a dream, a fever-induced hallucination brought on by the harsh conditions of the desert. But then the stranger spoke again, breaking the spell. "You're not the first to stumble upon this place, nor will you be the last," he said, his tone grave. "But few survive the encounter unscathed. Tell me, traveler, why do you wander so far from civilization?" Caleb hesitated, unsure whether to trust this enigmatic figure. Yet something about the man's demeanor suggested he might hold answers to questions Caleb hadn't even dared to ask. Taking a deep breath, Caleb recounted his story. The job gone wrong, the chaos in Silver Ridge, the desperate escape into the desert. By the time he finished, the stars above had grown brighter, their light casting a silvery glow over the scene. The stranger listened intently, his face unreadable. When Caleb fell silent, he nodded slowly. "I know the place you speak of," he said finally. "Silver Ridge. A cursed town, some say, built atop ancient ruins, buried beneath the earth. Its people dug too deep, unearthed secrets best left undisturbed." Caleb frowned, confusion clouding his features. "Secrets? What kind of secrets?" The stranger hesitated, as though weighing how much to reveal. "Legends tell of a tribe that once lived in these lands," he began. "They worshipped the desert, believed it held powers beyond comprehension. But greed corrupted them, and they sought to harness those powers for themselves. Their hubris led to their downfall, and the land itself turned against them." As the stranger spoke, Caleb felt a chill run down his spine. It was one thing to hear tales of ghosts and spirits. It was quite another to stand face to face with someone who claimed to know the truth behind them. "And the laughter?" he asked, unable to keep the tremor from his voice. "What does it mean?" The stranger's lips curved into a grim smile. "The laughter is a warning, traveler, a reminder that not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Those who dare to venture too close often find themselves changed forever." Before Caleb could respond, the stranger reached into his coat and produced a small object, a compass, its needle spinning erratically. "Take this," he said, pressing it into Caleb's hands. "It will guide you back to safety. But heed my words. Leave the desert behind and never look back." Without waiting for a reply, the stranger turned and walked away, disappearing into the night as quickly as he had appeared. Caleb stared after him, clutching the compass tightly. Its needle finally settled, pointing steadfastly in one direction. Though part of him wanted to question the stranger further, another part knew better than to defy his warning. With renewed determination, Caleb set off in the direction indicated by the compass. The journey was arduous, each step a battle against fatigue and thirst. Yet somehow he pushed on, driven by the hope of finding shelter and respite. Hours later, just as dawn broke over the horizon, he spotted a familiar landmark, a cluster of buildings nestled at the edge of the desert. Relief washed over him as he realized he had reached the outskirts of a small ranching community. Exhausted but grateful, Caleb stumbled into the nearest saloon, collapsing onto a stool. The patrons inside eyed him curiously, noting his disheveled appearance and haunted expression. But Caleb paid them no mind, ordering a drink to steady his nerves. As he sipped the cool liquid, his thoughts drifted back to the strange encounter in the Cactus Grove. Had it really happened, or was it merely a figment of his imagination? Days passed, and Caleb tried to put the incident behind him. He took odd jobs around the ranch, earning enough money to scrape by. Yet the memory of the laughter lingered, haunting his dreams and fueling his curiosity. One evening, while sitting by the fire, he confided in an old prospector named Jed. The man listened attentively, stroking his grizzled beard as Caleb recounted the tale. When Caleb finished, Jed chuckled softly. "Sounds like you ran into the ghost Cactus Grove," he said. "Folks around here steer clear of it. Some say it's haunted, others claim it's cursed. Either way, best to leave it be." Caleb nodded, though his mind was already racing with possibilities. Determined to uncover the truth, he decided to return to the grove, armed with courage and a newfound sense of purpose. Guided by the compass, he navigated the treacherous terrain, his heart pounding with anticipation. Upon reaching the grove, he found it unchanged, the cacti standing sentinel amidst the shifting sands. This time, however, Caleb was prepared. He delved deeper into the grove, searching for clues that might explain the mysterious laughter. After hours of exploration, he discovered a hidden cave concealed behind a thicket of thorny plants. Inside, the walls were adorned with carvings depicting scenes of ritualistic ceremonies and strange symbols. Among them, he found a journal belonging to one of the original settlers of Silver Ridge, detailing their ill-fated attempts to harness the power of the desert. As Caleb read the entries, he realized the full extent of the tragedy that had befallen the town. The settlers had unwittingly awakened an ancient force, one that demanded tribute in the form of laughter, a cruel mockery of joy that trapped unwary souls within its domain. Horrified by the revelation, Caleb resolved to break the cycle, knowing it would require great sacrifice. Armed with knowledge and resolve, Caleb performed a ritual outlined in the journal, calling upon the spirits of the desert to release their hold on the grove. The process was grueling, testing his strength and resolve to their limits. But in the end, the laughter ceased, replaced by an oppressive silence that hung heavy in the air. When Caleb emerged from the grove, the sun was rising, casting a warm glow over the landscape. Though physically drained, he felt a profound sense of peace, knowing he had done what few dared to attempt. As he made his way back to the ranch, he reflected on the lessons learned during his harrowing ordeal. Life in the Wild West was fraught with danger and mystery, but sometimes the greatest challenges revealed the true measure of a man. And so, Caleb carried the memory of the ghost Cactus Grove with him, a reminder that even in the most desolate places, there existed wonders and terrors beyond comprehension. The days that followed were a blur of activity for Caleb. Word of his deeds in the ghost Cactus Grove spread quickly among the small community, though he kept the details vague, preferring to let people draw their own conclusions. Some believed he had stumbled upon hidden treasure, while others whispered of supernatural forces at play. Regardless of the rumors, Caleb's reputation grew, and with it came opportunities he hadn't dared to dream of before. One morning, as the sun cast its golden light over the dusty streets of the ranching town, Caleb was approached by a man named Silas, a wiry individual with sharp eyes and an air of urgency about him. Silas introduced himself as a representative of a group seeking individuals with certain skills to undertake a perilous mission. Intrigued but cautious, Caleb listened intently as Silas outlined the task at hand. "There's a map," Silas began, his voice low and conspiratorial. "A map that leads to something extraordinary. It's been buried for decades, guarded by more than just sand and time. We believe it holds the key to uncovering secrets long forgotten, secrets that could change the course of history." Caleb's interest was piqued, but his recent experiences had taught him to approach such offers with skepticism. "And why should I trust you?" he asked, his tone measured. Silas leaned in closer, his gaze unwavering. "Because we share a common goal, to unravel the mysteries of this land without being consumed by them. You've proven yourself capable of facing the unknown. Few possess your strength or resolve." Though flattered by the compliment, Caleb remained wary. He knew all too well how easily promises could turn sour in the Wild West. Still, the prospect of another adventure stirred something deep within him, a yearning for a purpose and discovery that had lain dormant since his escape from Silver Ridge. After much deliberation, Caleb agreed to hear more about the mission. Silas led him to a secluded cabin on the outskirts of town, where a group of men and women awaited. Among them was a woman named Elena, her dark hair tied back in a practical braid, her green eyes exuding both intelligence and determination. She introduced herself as an archaeologist, specializing in the study of ancient artifacts and cultures. "The map," Elena explained, spreading out a faded parchment on the table, "dates back to the early days of Spanish exploration in this region. It depicts a network of tunnels beneath the desert, leading to what appears to be a temple or shrine. What lies within, however, remains a mystery." As Caleb examined the map, he noticed intricate symbols etched along its edges, reminiscent of those he had seen in the cave at the ghost Cactus Grove. A shiver ran down his spine, but he pushed the feeling aside, focusing instead on the task ahead. Why now? Caleb asked. If this map has existed for so long, why seek out only now? Elena exchanged a glance with Silas before answering. Recent events have brought attention to this area. Rumors of strange occurrences, lights in the sky, unexplained noises, have drawn the interest of parties far less scrupulous than ourselves. If we don't act quickly, others may exploit whatever lies beneath for their own gain. Caleb understood the implications. The Wild West was no stranger to greed and corruption, and the thought of powerful relics falling into the wrong hands troubled him deeply. Yet he also recognized the risks involved. Venturing into unknown territory, especially one rumored to harbor ancient powers, was no small undertaking. Despite his reservations, Caleb found himself agreeing to join the expedition. The team consisted of 6 members, each bringing unique skills to the table. Elena for her knowledge of history and archaeology, Silas for his expertise in navigation and survival, a burly man named Hank who served as the group's muscle, a quiet marksman named Marcus, and 2 siblings, Lily and Thomas, whose keen senses and agility made them invaluable scouts. Preparations took several days, during which Caleb familiarized himself with the others and honed his own abilities. They stocked up on supplies, ensuring they had enough food, water, and ammunition for the journey ahead. On the appointed day, they set out under a cloudless sky, their wagons creaking rhythmically as they traversed the rugged terrain. The first leg of the journey passed without incident, the vast expanse of desert stretching endlessly before them. By nightfall, they camped near a rocky outcrop, the stars above forming constellations unfamiliar to Caleb's urban-raised eyes. Around the fire, stories were shared, laughter echoed softly, and bonds began to form among the group. Yet beneath the surface, tension simmered, fueled by the uncertainty of what lay ahead. It wasn't until the 3rd day that trouble struck. As they navigated a particularly treacherous stretch of dunes, a sudden storm rolled in, its winds whipping sand into their faces and obscuring visibility. Panic threatened to take hold, but Caleb's experience in the desert proved invaluable. Under his guidance, the group managed to find shelter in a narrow canyon, huddling together as the storm raged outside. When the tempest finally subsided, they emerged to find their path blocked by a massive sand drift. Undeterred, they worked tirelessly to clear a way forward, their determination strengthening with each passing hour. It was during this ordeal that Caleb truly began to see the potential of the team, a collection of individuals united by a common purpose. Days turned into weeks as they followed the map's cryptic directions, deciphering clues etched into rocks and landmarks scattered across the landscape. Along the way, they encountered remnants of past civilizations, fragments of pottery, carvings in stone, that hinted at the grandeur of a bygone era. Each discovery fueled their resolve, reinforcing belief that they were on the right track. Yet, danger lurked around every corner. One evening, as they rested near a shallow riverbed, a pack of coyotes circled their camp, their glowing eyes reflecting the flickering firelight. Tensions ran high as the group prepared to defend themselves, but Caleb's calm demeanor helped keep panic at bay. With careful coordination, they managed to drive the predators away without bloodshed, earning newfound respect for one another in the process. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the desert, the atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. The air seemed heavier, charged with an energy that defied explanation. Strange sounds echoed through the canyons, whispers carried on the wind, distant laughter that sent chills down their spines. Despite these unsettling phenomena, Caleb pressed on, driven by a mixture of curiosity and duty. Finally, after countless trials and tribulations, they arrived at a location marked on the map, a towering rock formation shaped like a giant hand reaching toward the heavens. At its base lay the entrance to the underground labyrinth, partially concealed by vines and debris. Taking a deep breath, Caleb stepped forward, leading the group into the unknown. Inside, the air was cool and damp, a stark contrast to the heat of the desert above. Torches illuminated walls adorned with murals depicting scenes of worship and sacrifice, their vibrant colors preserved despite the passage of time. As they delved further into the tunnels, the murals grew darker, their imagery more sinister. hinting at rituals far removed from conventional understanding. At the heart of the labyrinth lay the chamber described in the map, a vast room dominated by a central pedestal bearing an object unlike anything Caleb had ever seen. Shaped like a starburst, it pulsed faintly with an inner light, its surface etched with symbols identical to those found in the ghost Cactus Grove. Standing before it, Caleb felt a profound connection, as though the artifact recognized him as much as he recognized it. But before they could examine the relic further, the ground trembled violently, and shadows moved along the walls, taking on forms both human and monstrous. The team braced for battle, their weapons drawn, but Caleb sensed that violence would not suffice against these adversaries. Drawing upon the lessons learned in the grove, he called upon the spirits of the desert, imploring them to reveal the truth behind the relic and its guardians. What followed was a revelation that shook the very foundations of their understanding. The relic, they discovered, was not merely an artifact, but a conduit, a bridge between worlds, designed to maintain balance between the physical realm and that of the unseen. Its power was immense yet fragile, requiring constant vigilance to prevent misuse. Faced with this knowledge, the team debated long into the night about their next steps. Some argued for destroying the relic, believing its destruction would eliminate the threat entirely. Others advocated for safeguarding it, arguing that its loss could upset the delicate equilibrium it upheld. In the end, Caleb cast a deciding vote, opting for preservation, but under strict conditions that ensured its power could never fall into the wrong hands. With heavy hearts, they sealed the chamber, concealing the relic once more beneath layers of rock and earth. Though relieved to have completed their mission, none could shake the feeling that their actions had merely delayed a greater reckoning. As they made their way back to the surface, the weight of their responsibilities settled heavily upon them. Emerging into bright sunlight, they paused to take in a view of the endless desert stretching before them. For Caleb, the journey had changed him in ways he couldn't fully articulate. He had faced his fears, uncovered truths both wondrous and terrifying, and forged connections that transcended mere camaraderie. Though the road ahead remained uncertain, he knew one thing for certain. The Wild West still held countless mysteries waiting to be unraveled, and he was ready to face them head-on. The journey back to civilization was a quiet one, the weight of the discovery pressing heavily on each member of the group. The desert seemed different now, its vast expanse no longer just a barren wasteland, but a living entity with secrets buried deep beneath its sands. Caleb often found himself glancing over his shoulder, half expecting to see shadows moving where there should be none. Yet, as they neared the outskirts of the small ranching town, a sense of normalcy began to creep back into their lives. Upon their return, news of their successful mission spread quickly, though details remained scarce. Caleb and the others agreed that some truths were best left untold, at least for now. They knew that revealing too much could spark curiosity, or worse, greed, that might lead others down the same perilous path they had walked. Instead, they settled into a routine, each finding ways to contribute to the community, while keeping watch for signs of trouble brewing elsewhere. Caleb took up residence in a modest cabin on the edge of town, a place that offered both solitude and proximity to the open land he had grown to love. Days passed uneventfully, filled with simple tasks, tending the horses, helping with repairs around the town, and occasionally sharing stories by the fire with fellow residents. Yet beneath the surface calm, Caleb felt a restlessness stirring, a yearning for purpose, for something more than the quiet life he had built. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, Caleb sat on the porch of his cabin, gazing out at the horizon. His thoughts drifted back to the relic they had sealed away, its pulsating light etched into his memory like a second heartbeat. He wondered if it still called to him, if the spirits of the desert whispered his name even now. Lost in contemplation, he barely noticed the approach of a familiar figure until she spoke. "Mind if I join you?" Elena asked, her voice soft but steady. Caleb nodded, scooting over to make room on the wooden bench. "Sure. Long day." She smiled faintly, taking a seat beside him. "You could say that, sorting through old notes, trying to piece together what we missed during the expedition. It's overwhelming sometimes." Caleb understood the sentiment all too well. "I get that. There's so much we don't know, and every answer seems to bring 10 more questions." Elena glanced at him, her green eyes reflecting the fading sunlight. "That's why I wanted to talk to you. About what happened in the chamber, about the relic. I think there's more to it than we realized. Something hidden, maybe even forgotten by those who created it." Caleb turned to face her, intrigued despite his weariness. "What do you mean? You think there's another layer to the story?" "I'm not sure yet," she admitted, pulling a folded piece of paper from her satchel. "But I've been studying this symbol. It appeared on one of the murals near the pedestal. It's unlike anything else we encountered, almost as if it doesn't belong in the same timeline as the others." She unfolded the paper, revealing a sketch of an intricate design resembling a spiral within a starburst. Caleb studied the drawing closely, his fingers tracing the lines absent-mindedly. "It does look different. Older, maybe? Or maybe newer?" "Exactly," Elena said, her tone growing animated. "And here's the thing. This symbol also showed up in some of the journals I've been translating. According to the writings, it represents a key, a literal key, used to unlock something far greater than the relic itself." "A key?" Caleb repeated, frowning. "Unlock what? Another chamber? Another world?" "That's the part one haven't figured out yet," Elena confessed. "But I believe it's connected to the whispers we heard in the tunnels. Those voices weren't random. They were guiding us or warning us about something beyond our understanding." Caleb leaned back, processing her words. The idea of another mystery waiting to be uncovered stirred something deep within him, reigniting the spark of adventure that had lain dormant since their return. "If this key exists," he said slowly, "do you think it's still out there somewhere? Or did whoever made the relic take it with them?" Elena shrugged. "We may never know unless we try to find out. But I have a theory, one that involves following leads back to the early settlers' records. If anyone kept detailed accounts of their explorations, it might point us in the right direction." Caleb considered the proposal carefully. On one hand, diving back into the unknown carried risks he couldn't fully anticipate. On the other hand, the chance to uncover even more about the mysteries of the desert was impossible to resist. "All right," he said finally, meeting her gaze. "Let's do it. But this time, let's make sure we're prepared for whatever comes our way." Elena's smile lit up her face, banishing the lingering shadows of uncertainty. "Thank you, Caleb. I knew I could count on you." Their plan solidified quickly, fueled by renewed determination and shared purpose. Over the next few weeks, Caleb and Elena gathered resources, consulting with Silas and the others when necessary, but keeping most of their efforts discreet. They scoured libraries, pored over dusty ledgers, and interviewed anyone who claimed knowledge of the settlers' activities. Slowly but surely, a pattern emerged, a trail of breadcrumbs leading toward a destination neither dared to fully imagine. Their first major breakthrough came in the form of an old map tucked inside a forgotten book in the town's library. Unlike the one they had followed before, this map depicted a series of landmarks scattered across the desert, each marked with symbols similar to the one Elena had shown Caleb. One location stood out prominently, a secluded canyon known locally as Echo Valley, named for the strange acoustic phenomena reported by travelers passing through. Without hesitation, Caleb and Elena set out for Echo Valley, accompanied by Marcus, whose sharpshooting skills proved invaluable in navigating the increasingly hostile terrain. The journey tested their endurance, pushing them through scorching days and frigid nights. At times, Caleb swore he could hear faint echoes of laughter carried on the wind, reminiscent of the ghost Cactus Grove. Each sound sent shivers down his spine, reminding him that the desert held no mercy for those who underestimated its power. When they finally reached Echo Valley, they were greeted by a sight both breathtaking and unsettling. Towering cliffs surrounded the area, their surfaces carved with countless symbols and glyphs that pulsed faintly in the moonlight. In the center of the valley lay a natural amphitheater, its acoustics amplifying every sound they made. As they approached cautiously, Caleb noticed something unusual embedded in the ground, a stone obelisk bearing the exact spiral starburst symbol Elena had sketched. "This is it," she breathed, her voice trembling with excitement. "This must be the key." Together, they examined the obelisk, searching for any mechanism that might activate it. After hours of trial and error, Caleb discovered a hidden groove along its base, perfectly shaped to fit the compass given to him by the mysterious stranger in the cactus grove. With hesitant hands, he inserted the compass, watching as the obelisk began to glow, casting eerie shadows across the valley. A low hum filled the air, growing louder until it became a deafening roar. The ground trembled violently, forcing Caleb, Elena, and Marcus to brace themselves against the nearest rocks. From the depth of the earth emerged a massive structure, an ancient temple, its entrance framed by colossal statues depicting figures neither human nor animal. The sight left them speechless, their minds struggling to comprehend the magnitude of what they had uncovered. As they stepped forward cautiously, the temple's interior revealed wonders beyond imagination. Walls shimmered with gold and precious stones, their surfaces inscribed with stories written in languages long extinct. At the heart of the temple lay another artifact, this one shaped like a perfect sphere suspended in midair. Its surface rippled like water, reflecting images of distant lands and times. Caleb reached out tentatively, his fingers brushing against the sphere's surface. Instantly, visions flooded his mind. Visions of civilizations rising and falling, of wars fought and peace achieved, of choices made and consequences endured. Among these scenes, one stood out vividly, a vision of himself standing alongside Elena and the others, holding the sphere aloft as light radiated outward, dispelling darkness across the land. When the vision faded, Caleb opened his eyes to find Elena staring at him intently. "Did you see it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I saw everything," he replied, his heart pounding with awe and trepidation. "But I think we're meant to protect it, not use it. This isn't just a tool, it's a responsibility." Elena nodded solemnly, understanding dawning in her eyes. Together, they decided to seal the temple once more, ensuring its secrets remained safe until the world was ready to embrace them. As they exited the valley, the echoes of laughter faded into silence, leaving only the promise of future adventures, and the knowledge that the Wild West still held countless mysteries waiting to be unraveled. And so, Caleb continued his journey, forever changed by the experiences that had shaped him. Though challenges awaited, he faced them with courage, knowing that even in the darkest corners of the desert, hope burned brightly, guiding those brave enough to seek it. The days that followed were a blur of preparation and reflection. Caleb, Elena, and Marcus returned to the small ranching town, their minds heavy with the weight of what they had witnessed in Echo Valley. The sphere's power was undeniable, yet its purpose remained shrouded in mystery. They knew one thing for certain: revealing its existence to the wrong people could unleash chaos upon the world. Back in town, Caleb found solace in the familiar routines of daily life. He helped repair fences, tended to horses, and occasionally shared stories by the fire with fellow residents. Yet beneath the surface calm, a restlessness stirred within him, a yearning for purpose, for something more than the quiet life he had built. The desert called to him, whispering promises of untold mysteries waiting to be uncovered. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold, Caleb sat on the porch of his cabin, lost in thought. His gaze drifted toward the distant mountains, their jagged peaks silhouetted against the fading light. It was then that a visitor arrived. Silas, the wiry man who had first approached him about the expedition. "Mind if I join you?" Silas asked, his sharp eyes gleaming with curiosity. Caleb nodded, motioning for him to take a seat. "What brings you out here?" Silas hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "I've been hearing things, whispers among travelers and traders. Strange occurrences have been reported across the region. Lights in the sky, unexplained noises, even sightings of figures that shouldn't exist." Caleb stiffened, memories of the ghost Cactus Grove and Echo Valley flooding back. "Go on," he urged. "It seems we're not alone in our discoveries," Silas continued. "Others are searching for answers, too. But unlike us, they don't care about preserving the balance. Some believe these artifacts can grant immense power, enough to reshape the world according to their will." A chill ran down Caleb's spine. "And you think they're getting close?" Silas leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Closer than we'd like. That's why I came to you. If anyone can stop them, it's you and your team. But this time, we'll need allies, people who understand the stakes and are willing to fight alongside us." Caleb mulled over the proposal, weighing the risks and rewards. The thought of confronting forces driven solely by greed and ambition filled him with unease. But he also knew that turning away would mean abandoning the responsibility he had taken upon himself. "All right," he said finally, "but we'll need to move fast, and quietly. If word gets out about what we're planning, we might as well hand them the keys to the kingdom." With renewed determination, Caleb, Elena, and Marcus began assembling a coalition of trusted individuals. Among them was Hank, whose brute strength and loyalty made him an invaluable asset; Lily and Thomas, whose agility and keen senses proved indispensable during scouting missions; and a new recruit named Clara, a healer with knowledge of ancient remedies and rituals passed down through her family. Their first task was gathering intelligence. Disguised as wandering prospectors, they traveled to various towns and outposts, listening for clues about the mysterious group Silas had mentioned. Rumors painted a chilling picture: a cabal of opportunists led by a charismatic figure known only as the Architect, whose ambition stretched far beyond personal gain. They sought not just power but dominion over the land itself, believing that unlocking the secrets of the desert relics would grant them control over nature and humanity alike. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, Caleb and his team devised a plan. Their target was a hidden camp nestled deep within the Badlands, where the Architect and his followers conducted their experiments and plotted their next moves. To infiltrate the camp undetected, they relied on Marcus's marksmanship and Caleb's instincts honed from years spent surviving in the wilderness. The night of the operation arrived, dark and moonless, perfect conditions for stealth. Dressed in dark clothing, the team crept to the rocky terrain, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Tensions ran high as they neared the camp, its perimeter guarded by sentries armed with rifles. One false move could spell disaster, but Caleb's leadership kept morale steady, his calm demeanor inspiring confidence in those around him. They managed to slip past the outer defenses without raising alarm, thanks in part to Lily and Thomas's ability to mimic animal calls and divert attention. Inside the camp, they discovered evidence confirming their worst fears: blueprints detailing plans to harness the energy of the desert relics, along with journals chronicling grotesque experiments involving both human and animal subjects. Enraged by what they saw, the team debated whether to strike immediately or gather more information. In the end, Caleb opted for caution, knowing that destroying the camp outright risked leaving critical knowledge intact. Instead, they sabotaged key equipment and stole documents containing sensitive data, ensuring that even if the Architect rebuilt his operation, he would lack crucial tools needed to succeed. Their escape was harrowing, pursued by angry guards shouting orders into the night. Bullets whizzed past as they sprinted to the rocks, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, Clara unleashed a smoke bomb she had crafted earlier, creating a thick cloud that obscured their movements and allowed them to slip away into the darkness. Back at their base of operations, a secluded canyon known only to them, the team regrouped to analyze their findings. What they uncovered sent shockwaves through the group. The Architect wasn't merely interested in controlling the relics. He intended to awaken an entity buried beneath the sands, an ancient force slumbering since the dawn of time. According to legend, this being possessed unimaginable power, but demanded tribute in the form of lives sacrificed willingly or unwillingly. Faced with such dire revelations, Caleb realized they couldn't act alone. Mobilizing allies across the region, they formed a network dedicated to thwarting the Architect's plans. Ranchers, miners, prospectors, all joined together under a single banner, united by a common cause. Training camps sprang up overnight, teaching recruits how to defend themselves and others against threats both mundane and supernatural. Months passed, each day bringing fresh challenges and victories. Along the way, Caleb learned valuable lessons about trust, sacrifice, and the resilience of the human spirit. He watched as once divided communities came together, proving that even in the harshest environments, bonds forged in adversity could withstand anything. Finally, the moment of reckoning arrived. Using intelligence gathered during their infiltration of the camp, Caleb and his team pinpointed the location of the Architect's final ritual, a remote plateau surrounded by treacherous cliffs and shifting sands. Armed with weapons both conventional and arcane, they launched a daring assault, determined to put an end to his schemes once and for all. The battle was fierce, testing every ounce of skill and courage they possessed. Waves of enemies poured forth, their numbers seemingly endless. Yet Caleb and his companions fought with unwavering resolve, drawing strength from each other and the knowledge that failure meant catastrophe on a scale none could fathom. In the heart of the conflict, Caleb faced the architect himself, a gaunt man cloaked in shadows whose eyes burned with fanaticism. Their duel was a clash of wills as much as physical prowess. Each blow exchanged carrying the weight of centuries of struggle between those who sought to dominate and those who strove to protect. When the dust settled, the architect lay defeated, his dreams of conquest shattered. The entity he had sought to awaken remained dormant, its prison strengthened rather than weakened by the events that transpired. As Caleb stood victorious, surveying the battlefield bathed in the first light of dawn, he felt a profound sense of peace, not triumph, but fulfillment. For Caleb, the journey had come full circle, from a lone wanderer lost in the desert to a leader guiding others through darkness toward light. He had proven time and again that even in the wildest reaches of the West, hope endured, and though challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, he faced them now with the knowledge that no matter how daunting the odds, there was always a path forward, if only one dared to seek it.